Now I want to talk about this tetrahedron that has the vector equilibrium on the inside, which is over and over represented in this larger vector equilibrium, which is full of smaller ones and smaller octahedrons. And each of these, well, this whole thing, it represents infinity multiplied in the tiniest way forever. And I'll show you why. I can't do the math on this, but look at this one. This vector equilibrium inside here, inside this tetrahedron, has 4 more tetrahedrons on each corner, in which, in a smaller version of itself, this whole thing could be done again. And each of the 4 that would come from these smaller ones, created again as the inside, it again would have 4 corners. And those 4 corners would have 4 corners, and it multiplies exceedingly fast. I can't do this math. It's like 4, yes, there's 4 there in this one. But in the second one, you would have all of the 4s of the 4 corners, which would be 16. And then it would multiply beyond that, because you'd have 16 with 4 corners. And whatever that multiplies into, then you would have to multiply it by 4 again. Ad infinitum, just forever. So this can concentrate down to a very tiny thing. And it also, you can take this and build it into a very large thing. Like I'm showing here with this larger vector equilibrium. I could, if I wished to, I could bring it out even further and make a bigger one, so big that I wouldn't be able to keep it on my desk anymore. I'd have to put it outdoors like I do so many other things that I make. But I just think this is a wonderful picture of geometry that is kind of like the Mandelbrot set. It repeats the same kind of geometry, both inward and outward. Inward to infinity and outward to infinity. And yet it's all right here shown in one space inside of one form here that I have. This whole thing shows the concentration of it, and it also shows that it can expand. And each time it expands by 72 struts that are just a little bit longer than the initial ones that started it off. And I think 72 is a very sacred number. I've got to look that up and see what exactly it means. I know there's supposed to be 72 names for God. And there may be some other associations with 72, I don't know. But also I want to show you how this is in this thing I first made. The vector equilibrium, I made it into the flower of life. You can see the flower of life pattern in white behind this. And I call this my version of the atom, with these spinning parts of the vector equilibrium going in 4 directions around it. 4 directions. And so this to me represents like life, like the spin, like the event horizon, like the black hole, like a pattern that all growth, the flower of life is a pattern that all growth goes into to become whatever it becomes. Everything growing follows that pattern of geometry. So I just think these are good symbols. I got my desk full of these sort of things. Getting quite crowded in here. Oh, I wanted to show you this one I brought in from outside. See how it would make the Merkabah. All these triangles with the vector equilibrium is really represented in this if it came out one like that. Which I could have put another segment to it and come out that way, and then what it would have turned into is a much larger octahedron. And then I could have turned the octahedron into an even much larger Merkabah. All of these shapes, the Merkabah, the octahedron, tetrahedron, and the vector equilibrium, They all just morph in and out of each other. One turns into another, which turns into another, which is filled with zillions of them inside, if you can imagine that way with me, how the four corners make even more smaller and smaller ones. And I think it's really important too that this idea I have about squeezing the vector equilibrium, which I called the wrong thing in that last video. I called it the Vesica Pisces. But it is actually squeezing the Vesica Pisces, because there she is. There's that part of it that represents the womb of all creation, the Vesica Pisces. And you push four of these together, because see, life, the matter, the part that's visible here, and the part you don't see is the black hole, the invisible power of God. But life has a way of putting a little pressure on you. And what do you do when pressure is added to you in this world of duality? Well, you become in service to Creator. You don't let it ruin your life. You just say, okay, there's ups and downs in life. There's valleys and there's mountaintops. And you turn everything into you being of service to yourself and everyone else. And so this Holy Grail, that's you. And I also like this picture of it here, turned to look like the double torus. Because when you keep folding these sides over, these squares over, they round up a little bit and make this double torus. And I want to mention, I have some videos out there. I call it Light Creates Creations. And it's my experience of looking at light, because I've been looking at light and seeing another dimension. And I see life in that dimension. I see all kinds of things. What I see resembles what some people call eye floaters. Now, people do have a condition where their retina is torn, and parts of the torn retina float on their eyeball, and they blur their vision sometimes because they move around and they can't see very well if they have these eye floaters. I was talking to someone just the other day, and she said, oh no, I see little things when in the sunlight that look like little tubes or worms. Kind of makes me want to believe in the string theory because what I see in the light is like a lot of little strings that are out there, and the light reveals them. When you squint your eyes and you look just so, you can see them everywhere. They're like, they move with you as you move your head. And I developed a way of seeing them up close and more detailed by looking into a very bright light with my eyes squinted. And what happens is the light doubles, like, you know, like when you're cross-eyed. I'm practically cross-eyed doing this. And out of that, one of them will bubble up like a microscope lens. It looks round. It looks like a disc, but it's a very moving disc. And it takes many shapes, this disc does. And it has all kinds of colored lights flowing in and out of it, and bubbles. And these little things I call GTLs, the gossamer threads of light. And they are growing into things. I can see them in the light, and every time I look at them, they've got a new appendage to them, or they've grouped themselves together with others of their kind, and they move, and I'm seeing into another world of things that are not like human at all. They're not like anything I've ever seen, even things under a microscope, because if you look at some little amoeba under a microscope, it moves around freely and kind of eats things around it. These things aren't eating anything, but they are producing something. And I read in a book about seeing into the subatomic microscopic zone of life and looking at the very first cell. And I think that's what I'm looking at. And it's something you can't do unless you learn to love everyone and see everyone as the Christ, and you don't hate anyone. And I've been working on that. I didn't think I was completely able to do it just yet, but I must be doing it a little bit because I'm seeing into the light all these things, and I hope you will check out the video I've made, a set of 3 or 4 of them, called Light Creates Creations, because I think sunlight has a lot of information in it, and I think light is now containing more than it had before. There's more to the composition of light. Something has been added, and for some of us, we're able to see into that light now and see another dimension that exists right here where we are in our world, and it has a connection with our world, but I haven't quite yet figured out what it is. I keep looking at this light and seeing all these little gossamer threads of light moving about amongst a background of light vortexing and light coming into a torus-like condition and an orb-like condition and a ribbon-like condition with color in it. It's so fascinating, and there's really no way of really explaining it well enough because I can't hardly even draw a picture of it. It moves constantly, and yet the little creatures that move about in it don't seem to be interfering with others that are moving just right beside them. It's like they're all in their own layer, and all of them have freedom to move in any direction in their layer, and it's non-interfering with any other set of little squiggly things that are moving in some other dimension. And then there's some that are small. They look like they're way in the background. Also, what I'm seeing in the light is a black hole surrounded by white concentric circles, and it stays in one particular region of my viewing, and but sometimes it moves around, but yet it stays mostly in one particular place. And it's very interesting what I'm seeing in the light. It's kind of confounding to me because I don't know anywhere to turn to look up what someone else has already discovered about this. I mean, I could Google all day long and I won't find anyone that's experienced this. I know, because I've tried. I've come close. This man that named Ed, I can't pronounce his last name, but he was the builder of the Coral Castle in Florida. He used to see things in light, and he called them little beads strung together. And he said they were chromosomes, that he saw chromosomes. Well, I don't know what else he saw or knew, but the man was a genius in building and structuring huge, mammoth pieces of coral, heavy things. And he was just about 100-pound man, and he built this coral castle. You might want to look it up on Google. Coral Castle, C-O-R-A-L. Ed Ledeskin or something like that is his name. So it's not crazy that you see things that other people don't see. A few years ago, that would land you in the nut house. I mean, hearing voices or seeing things other people don't see is not something that people are real proud of. I mean, I feel kind of a resentment. My own family members don't want to explore it with me or even say, "Oh, that's fascinating, Mother. Oh, that's wonderful." And God gave me this dove story, and I tell it on my website. The Dove Story for Children is the best one to listen to. But there's not a lot of interest by the people who know you the best. But I really know that God spoke to me when he gave me that story through the means of automatic handwriting. I didn't hear any actual voice, but the words just flowed from my hand, on the pencil on the paper. And you'll have to look into that. It's a very interesting story which tells all about how we are all one. And that's what all these sacred geometries are showing, that we're all one. We came out of one. Anyway, check it out if you will. I'll leave the URL address under this for you to be able to click right on it. Okay, over and out. This is the Dove Lady. Talk to you later.